All right, Joe Piscopo on the radio with Al and Joe and Debbie, and chris-grollnek, retired police detective corporal, active shooting expert, founder and managing principal of the Active Shooter Prevention Project. Chris, welcome back to the show, and a good Monday to you, sir. Always under not great circumstances, but we appreciate you taking the time.
Hey, good morning, Joe. Thanks for having me on.
So we always talk about school shootings, and we always talk about terror shootings on the homeland, and God forbid, Chris-Grollnek, that doesn't happen with everybody coming into the country the way they are. But what did Russia miss on this? Very curious that, big bad Russia, would allow these terrorists to get in. What do you see in this regard, Chris-Grollnek?
Well, by no means am I an international terrorism expert. However, all reports would say and suggest they were stretched in from their war efforts and internal security efforts for anti-war or pro-war in Ukraine. All that said, there was a warning given by the United States to Russia about 3 weeks ago, and a State Department memo went out to all U.S. citizens: stay away from concert halls, theaters, open area exchanges. And when it didn't happen, people's attention diminish, and their attention spans diminish, and then all of a sudden it happens, and people were surprised something went wrong, even though the U.S. intelligence apparatus was more informed, as it appears, than the Russian intelligence apparatus. And these terrorists went in and demonstrated their will and desire to exchange their life for the lives of about 150 plus, I believe it was 157, and then 137 injured.
Yeah.
And they carried it out like we see our traditional, what we see in the United States, which are domestic terrorism. And the only real difference is the sponsor level, right? The training, coordination, and the types of attacks done. They're all usually for the same reason: political, ideological, or religious reasons. And even this falls into one of those categories or more.
Yeah, and unfortunate, they allegedly trained these killers, trained in Afghanistan. It's all a part of that Afghanistan. They trained in Afghanistan, in Iran as well. So it's just, I don't want to say there's a weakness in our country, but there is, and I fear what will happen here. Your instinct as an active shooting expert, Chris, and I don't want to alarm anybody on the air, but you see 8 million people coming in over the last 3 years. That is bigger than the population of 36 states in America, and these people are you figure almost, I may have my numbers wrong, hundreds of thousands, if not more, gotaways, what they call gotaways. So I mean, we have to be on our game. Is law enforcement, and again, it's politically incorrect to talk about what we're talking about, Chris, but is law enforcement prepared for this onslaught? They may, God forbid, hit us.
I don't think law enforcement's ever been so prepared, and I'm not going to pigeonhole
I got you.
the threats into one area. However, I will say our lights have never been blinking brighter, says the director of the FBI. No matter what your opinion of him is, or any organization, the failures before, the positives ahead, we're warning the public. And I think that it's not a cry wolf or a look at me thing. It's more of a, we even warned another country. They didn't take heed to the exact warning, and then we see what happened. Now, by no means am I promoting stay at home, stay away, et cetera, et cetera. What I'm saying is, what I tell you every time we're on the phone together for good, bad, and other reasons, there are ways to mitigate these things. There's ways to be ready as a citizen, as a human being, no matter what country you're in. And if you're in the United States, we need a national standard, because you said it, Joe. The police, are they ready? Yes, they're ready. They've never been more prepared. The problem is these events start and stop before the police can traditionally get there.
Yeah.
We are our own best instrument to save ourselves, and whether that's the one thing, a good guy with a gun stops a bad guy with a gun, sure. But why would we want to rely on our families having to be armed, or somebody to be armed around our families, when there's things we can do to strengthen each location's tolerance for something like this, to where it almost makes it impossible. We're already fireproof, right? Fire resistant in a lot of places.
Yeah.
It's time to be these types of things: active shooter proof, active shooter resistant, and we can do that. I mean, that's the whole mission.
Yeah, what a great analogy. You're absolutely right. You know, you pull an alarm and there's the fire department shows up. But before we let you go, because how these people got in, there was nobody. I mean, to slaughter that many people with automatic weapon, and then it just kept, if you see the video, and please, if you're listening to Chris and Joe on the radio, please, I don't even want to tell you to look at the video, but it's so unsettling. No one was there. No one was there. Maybe they are stretched thin in their war, but they were. Do we know that there was any security out there? Apparently not, Chris. Correct?
Yeah, and if there was, they were probably one of the first killed. The reports on that are the reports on that are both yes and no. So I'm not an intelligent basis to say yes or no. But the reports are there were security, and then there's other reports that there weren't. But then there's reports and pictures of dead security. So. You know, when they went in, they cordoned this off and they pulled this off. Their strategy was pretty tight to carry out what they wanted to do, and then lit fires to the location, and people died from poison, fire. You know, that's what they call respiratory distress when you inhale the smoke. But this is the worst tragedy Russia's had in 2 decades since Beslan Siege in the theater, and we haven't had, you know, thank God, major terrorism attack since 2001, right? And we've had other attacks, but not to that magnitude or scale or this scale. Yeah. And I would just say, you know, we've had domestic attacks, right? Oklahoma City, that was before 2001. We're on the cusp of one of these things happening. Like you said, it's going to come from international or it's going to be domestic. The size and scope compared to what we speak about is going to be monumentally different. We just have to be vigilant, not scared.
Well, you know what? You're speaking the truth, Chris. Thanks so much for always joining us and your expertise. I appreciate it very much. There is a solution. And Chris, give us your website again, if you'd be so kind to do that, sir.
Hey, go search Destination NEVERHERE. It's just our free platform that we're launching all the solutions on.
I love it. I love it.
For free. And it's running an hour at a time every third week, and it's basically a free seminar of what to do and how to do it.
I love it. Well done, Chris-Grollnek. Thanks so much for joining us. Thanks for your service, sir.
Thank you, Joe. You too.
Yeah, retired police detective, corporal, active shooting expert, founder, and managing principal of the Active Shooter Prevention Project.